Tonight, Christina Carswell hosts an all-new episode of The Lounge. The following program may contain mature material some viewers may not find suitable. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's The Lounge with Christina Carswell. Tonight, Christina welcomes Alex, also known as Axel, from the channel Slothed, Sarah from the channel Lyra Kai Laren, and John, a professional QA video game tester. And now, your host, Christina Carswell.
Welcome to The Lounge on TOONDISE. We're going to be talking about alpha and beta testing content and responsibilities. So I know all of us have at least done a beta test before. Alpha testing is a little bit different. But I wanted to delve into it a little bit for maybe some people who aren't understanding the difference between like alpha and beta considered early access, because it's kind of similar but not quite. So I wanted to start off with that.
The funny thing is that early access now has basically become alpha testing.
It's turned into it, but it wasn't that before.
Oh, it definitely wasn't like that before, but like people realized, they're like, hey, if we can at least shit out a decent semblance of what we want to kind of do as a video game and then let people test it, and if people like it, they could throw us more money so that we could finish it. Mm-hmm. That's what it's basically become. Before it was like, alpha testing was like, all right, we've dumped all our money into building this kind of small model. Have fun, like it goes through the QA testing, and then the alpha testers are like a select individual bunch. Sometimes they're media outlet, reporters.
Most of the times they're paid.
Well, yeah, you're paid to do alpha testing, or at least now with the whole YouTube space, it's a sponsored video, right? They're like you see it a lot now, and funny enough, I've also realized that like a lot of YouTubers have to like declare even mentioning a certain thing nowadays without having to say like, this isn't a sponsored video. Like they have to defend themselves, and I feel that's kind of like a small kind of negative aspect of the whole deal. But
no one likes to have a sales pitch thrown at them, right?
Exactly. So an alpha testing is usually riddled with bugs, because it's the initial kind of wave of like letting other people who aren't the dev team play it, so that they can learn how people interact. And with games like especially open world or sandbox games, that's definitely a big thing. Like that has to go through, like a game that's like, I don't know, some guy creates a game that's essentially Geometry Wars or something like that, like a simple twin stick shooter. They're bound in the dimensions of the screen, so they can't really do anything necessarily out of the ordinary, so you get people kind of alpha testing that, and it's just kind of like, all right, we'll see what strategies players use, and if some guy comes up with like, oh, hiding in this corner breaks the game, then they can turn around and fix it. But if you like completely extrapolate that on a Grand Theft Auto 5 scale, you have players who can literally go into the nooks and crannies of mostly every alley in that entire game, and it has been meticulously crafted. However, there are players who will literally be like, I want to just grab a jet, fly as high as I can, and try and like land it on some stupid building.
Try something that in normal physics would not work.
Yeah, and then that tests the physics engine, right?
Yeah.
Like, so there's like I'm guilty of that, and I also love doing that. Sandbox games are my favorite thing, so I got a chance to play a few betas of sandbox games, and I loved it. And it was really, really fun, because like I was doing things, and then I was like, hey, so I went on top of this building and tried to jump to the other building, and it like completely glitched out, and then I ended up being stuck in the dumpster. Like that's in the bottom of the alley. Like I didn't complete the jump, obviously, but like now I'm physically stuck in this dumpster and I can't get out.
Oh, that's part of the no one believes you module.
Yeah, pretty much.
Your character also smells of wine.
But that's the thing, is that like certain games actually get around that, because they'll allow like a console command or something that's like type in hashtag stuck, and it'll
Like World
temporarily
of Warcraft has, where it just hurts
was
you.
bang stuck, like exclamation point stuck, and and some games will get that. Some games, especially ones that are heavily Valve based, they have a built-in system that if they detect you colliding with a certain object or certain objects, they'll temporarily put no clip on your character so that you can get out of it. It's like stuck prevention. Gmod is probably one of the most famous for that, because Gmod has a plethora of multiplayer variants
and different maps and user created maps and
so that's alpha testing in a nutshell. Is like basically giving a bunch of people executive order to try and either play the game exactly as you intended and come up with and uncover game-breaking bugs just following the normal parameters of the game, or you give it in the hands of people like myself who just decide to I'm gonna break and destroy the physics engine.
Literally just aiming to break as much as you possibly can.
But that's the thing, is as a developer, you want both types of people. You want the people who will because it's like when a game is released, and especially again an open world sandbox game. You'll get the players who will do all the story missions, and they'll go from point A to point B to get to the next story mission, and point B to point C, and et cetera, et cetera. And then there's people like me who I think I've played about 300 hours of Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PC since it came out, and I have not even touched the main storyline.
Yeah, and players do that quite often. I did that in Fallout 4.
Albeit 180 of those hours are GTA Online, but the single player story, which I've dumped about 100 hours into, I've beaten maybe about half the story, but that was just so that I could unlock, certain things or get certain things easier.
Yeah, the only thing I did in the single player mode for Grand Theft Auto 5 was just go to the strip club. That's all I used it for.
That's some people do that.
Used it as a virtual honey spot.
Pretty much. Lonely lesbian.
But it's so but then when you move to beta testing is mostly reserved for a lot of multiplayer games with a lot of multiplayer interactions, because beta testing really tests out how, if you decide.
Because at that point, it's almost a polished game. You're just ironing out the.
Well, at that point, they've already put up the foundation. They've already put up the walls. They're starting to hang the pictures, and they're basically going, "Do you like this picture?" And if the community says, "No, this picture looks ugly," they're like, "Okay, cool. So we'll take it out of the game. How about this picture?" And the people are like, "We like this picture." And then they go, okay, cool. This.
Do you want it on the wall here, or higher, or lower, or
should we
sideways?
Put it higher, or should we put it? And then there's always that asshole guy who's like, I fucking hate this picture no matter what it is, and tries to knock it off the wall, right? There's always those types of people. So that's what beta testing is for, and it's usually to test newer mechanics of the game that have been introduced, or the devs are like, what if we do this? Or server capabilities. Usually for MMOs or
one server.
Usually for MMOs or a lot of massively multiplayer games, or even how servers handle lobby style games like mostly MOBA games or shooters.
That's when you see the beta free weekends. That's when they want a lot of people to log on and see if they could troubleshoot the capacity,
mass server traffic and stuff like that. Yeah, that's definitely
and you'll still get huge bugs as well coming in the beta, because when I was I did the Star Trek Online beta as part of the lifetime subscription thing, and most of the bugs had been ironed out, of course, because this was the open beta or closed beta 2 just before release. But there is this bug that came up that wasn't seen in any of the testing before, where there are these items in the game that are called tribbles, just like from the show Little Furball things, but they have different effects when your player or your crew members pet them. They give some additional bonuses or whatnot. But my crew kept taking their tribbles out of their pockets, petting them every second, and every time they took their tribble out of their pocket, the tribble grew in size. It kept growing and growing and growing until the entire screen was engulfed with nothing but my crew's tribbles. And this continued on through the majority of the beta test until like the last day or so when they released a fix for that, because it took them that long to find a fix for it, and so many people were having issues for it.
They thought there was that supermassive black hole, but instead the universe is now tribble.
And it's
terrifying.
It was really disorienting too. It's like you get to a boss fight and all you see is these 4 tribbles just taking up the entire screen. You can't see shit beyond them.
And that would be part of what Sean explained, was people going outside the sandbox and doing stuff they're technically maybe not supposed to do.
Or
that's the thing.
Or their thing has an unintended consequence, or they're like, shit, we didn't realize this could happen.
Exactly.
That's generally what happens.
Yeah, this is well within the rules of the game. Just my NPC crew members just were obsessively, compulsively petting their tribbles.
If Pokemon has taught us anything, people like their pets.
Yeah.
It's something else, just on a quick segue here.
Yeah.
I often find it's a bit of an issue with some development design is, the term of, well, what should we not let them do? I personally feel that you really shouldn't be asking that question. You should be asking instead is, how do we deal with the consequence of the actions they have done?
Yeah, rather than trying to control what the players are going to do. Players are going to do it no matter what you do. It's doing with the coding, I guess, is what they should be looking at more instead of trying to restrain the player.
Well, the coding can still involve, restrictions, but the important thing is that rather than focusing on putting restrictions, it's just more like, okay, they did this thing. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we let them do?
Yeah, it's like you said there, the unforeseen consequence of petting a tribble whenever it got pulled out of your pocket.
Why was it supposed to grow? Was that like part of...
No.
It wasn't supposed to grow?
No, it wasn't. It's supposed to stay... There was no... The mechanic of the tribble was simply just a pet. Was a pet for you and your crew to just take out of their pocket and pet it.
So the growth was unexpected.
Yeah, the growth was not intended at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and just some random side effect from something in the code just made it inflate and inflate and inflate and inflate and grow and
grow and grow. That's actually really funny. I would have just left it in and be like, don't pet your trouble too much. Just don't.
If you had one of those games that would, connect with other games, that would be terrifying to open the door towards. Just like one day, I'm going to go over to the Star Trek universe, open the door, trouble, just
everywhere.
Squeezing.
Well, the funny thing was, though, whenever I saw other players and their tribbles weren't fine. Because the player characters would never get stuck in that loop of taking their tribbles out and petting them constantly. It was only the NPC crew members that you brought on your away team that did that. Oh. And it was like, oh my god, it was hilarious.
I would really have liked them to put in a thing where if your trouble grew too big and you were beside it and the confines of the space got too much, it could crush you. That'd be really funny. Yeah. Could you imagine an entire spaceship just filled with overweight trebles just killing the onboard crew, and then some ship pulls up to that ship and it's like, hey, why is the ship dead in the air? And they go on board no, it's trebles!
I'm just trying to imagine what the commit message after they fixed that was like.
Just the patch notes. They're like, we fucked up the shit with tribbles. Sorry.
It's gotta
they
be
grew too large. We had to cull them.
Yeah.
We had to cull the population.
There's actually another glitch in the game. This was found after release. I'm actually surprised it wasn't caught before during the beta, where your NPC crew you could promote to a max rank of commander. Okay. But for whatever reason, they coded your NPC crew with the same ranking system as the player characters, which could get up to a maximum rank of rear admiral at the time.
So an NPC could outrank me?
Yeah. Well, no, I quite literally have I still have a Star Trek Online character, but I quite literally am the only. There's a glitch that. If you're promoting your an NPC crew member and it lags out, and you promote them again within that lag time too many times, it will promote them all the way up to max rank, or at the time it was max rank. So when I was a lieutenant, because that's how high I could get, I ended up having a second in command who was a rear admiral. I am quite literally the only person in Star Trek Online with a rear admiral as my second in command.
Well, congratulations for exploiting a bug.
No, it was completely by accident.
You can't do that. That's cheating.
And the thing is, I reported it to the dev
legitimate testing experience.
I reported it to the dev team afterward, and they're just like, it doesn't affect gameplay. Just keep it. I'm like,
well,
okay, sure.
I remember, like, the most recent big, large beta that I was in was the beta for Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, I was part of that too.
To anyone who's played that game since it came out, you're fucking welcome. I had to wade through the shit before that was actually a tolerable game.
I am right with you, and I've played it since its release.
I remember, like, the very first beta, like, closed invitation-only beta. Mm-hmm. Me and a few friends got in, and we're going around, and we're, like, doing some of the early quests, just try and gain some levels.
Dude, that starting zone was so brutal.
Oh, it's bugged out as fuck, because you go to talk to the fucking cook to learn a recipe for cooking, because that's the first thing in, like, any MMO that has a lot of jobs or professions. Like, World of Warcraft, I was maxed out in, like, as many professions as I could across all my characters without being completely insane to do, like, max out fishing, because I'm fucking bored and have nothing else to do.
You got nothing to do with your life.
So, like, fuck maxing out fishing, but, like, you know, I've always tried to, like, when I used to play World of Warcraft, I always tried to max it out. So I was like, oh, sweet, you could do cooking and shit like this. And cooking was actually useful in ESO because you could cook food recipes that healed you more.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, cool. Like, I'll take up cooking. And then I tried to take up their version of enchanting or whatever. I forget what that one was. But it was just like, I remember going to the first spot where you could learn how to do that and, like, opening a menu to talk to the NPC and nothing showed up. Mm-hmm. But it had switched the camera into, like, the dialogue mode.
Yeah, yeah.
But
that happened a lot in the beta.
But no menu option showed up. And then, like, I'm sitting there, like, pushing as many buttons as I could, trying to get, like, pushing escape. Escape's not working. I'm trying to, like, see if I can move the camera or anything. And meanwhile, like, I was playing in a house with all of us because, like, we decided to make an event of it because we all got invited to the beta. We're like, all come over to my house. We'll, like, set up in my living room. We'll make an evening of it. We'll try and play all night until the beta closed. Mm-hmm. And all of us ran into issues upon issues. And it was just like, wow, as a beta, this is even bad. And it's like,
no, it opened up early.
A good 30% of our time actually writing bug reports.
Yeah.
Than actually playing the game. But that's what they're used for.
Yeah,
but
that's what beta tests are for.
At the same time, though, they were for such, like, menial stuff that it was like, if you don't have this shit under lock, what's going on here? Like, it wasn't just a happenstance graphical glitch. Like, the person sitting beside me on a completely different computer is having the exact same problem.
Sarah, I think I started that beta with you, no?
The Elder Scrolls beta?
Yeah. Didn't we partake in that when I was working at the airport with you?
I don't think I was actually. I don't think I was actually part of the beta for that.
You might
it must have been someone else. Out. But you know the blonde in, like, the starting area?
Yeah.
The one that releases you from the jail cell? So yeah. I had the same glitch that you ran into, but with her. Yeah. And I could not progress. And I spent 2 hours talking to a game master to try to resolve the issue, to try to, like, report the bug. And for whatever reason, they could not figure out why it was happening to just me. But everyone else was able to go through it. But, like, I sent in my data report. I sent in as much of the information I possibly could from my end, and they still could not figure out what was different.
Which is fun, because that's sometimes you run into issues like that. Like in the ESO beta, I was playing and I was walking beside one of my friends. We were doing a quest, and all of a sudden I just started walking up. Like I was walking up an invisible incline. But it wasn't on my screen. It wasn't a graphical glitch. Like my friend literally goes, "Why are you just walking into the air?" I'm like, "My planet needs me." I just started walking into space, and I was like, this is insane. But the thing is that betas can be an absolute necessity for a game. But and here's an example that I just thought of, as they can be a complete bane on how good a game does based on how the beta does. And so many people look to the beta as like this is as close to a finished product as we could get. Look at what happened with Evolve.
Oh boy.
Because Evolve was like so hyped to be this like next generation like multi esports like game, and like was, you know, like it was so overhyped. And then when people actually got a chance to sit down and play the beta, people were like, this is boring. Yeah. You know? And like I understand that game was actually meant to be played as a 4v1 team game where like constant communication between players is needed to kill the beast, right? Or the whatever you want to call it, the beast, the monster, whatever. And a lot of people missed that, right? They took it as like I'm a lone wolf, like my other team is all lone wolves, and we'll just go on and try and kill it. And then it ended up for 25 minutes, they were just like the monster was just running them in a circle. Yeah. Like and those players, I can understand why they didn't get into the game, because their only means of understanding the game were basically, oh, well, we just ran in a circle. He just ran us in a circle. It's horribly one-sided towards the monster. Like, it's no good. But, like, I've seen, you know, some games of people playing it where they're playing it with, you know, other people, and it was very, like, team game-based. But that beta really killed it for a lot of people.
No, it's true, and the fact that you had to
the beta was filled with bugs, too.
You had to pay for the beta, too.
Did you?
Which you had to pay into it.
That's something I could never get.
That's even worse. But I mean, that's basically early access games now.
That whole thing was just a fiasco, to be honest. Why spend? How much did they put it up for? Was it $80?
Oh, it was $80, and then 129 different cosmetic DLCs that were basically like, we took this gray gun and made it a slightly darker gray.
So basically, to get into the beta, it was like $20 or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, maybe if I really badly wanted to beta test that, all I'd have to do is just go over to TF2 and go play the Saxon Hail mod that the community made. Mm-hmm. Boom! Sim game, absolutely free! Hooray!
Just something to add though on the comment about the early access and open beta, and what some people don't understand, and because I didn't understand this when I went to the my first beta with Star Trek Online, was that your character and your progress from the beta do not transfer over to the release of the game.
No, it gets wiped clean.
Yeah, it gets wiped clean. Whereas early access, it's literally you're playing the game just before release.
Not necessarily. I say this as a complainant of a lot of early access games, but currently I am streaming one of the biggest early access games I've ever pitched in for, and that's The Forest.
Yeah, you were talking about that last time too.
Yeah, I stream that every so often. I'm probably going to be streaming that later this weekend. It's just me exploring the game. The game is in pure alpha. It even says it when you load up the game. It's in like alpha 0.032 now. It's like super alpha. But it's being made by a smallish team. So like, of course, you know, a game this size is going to take a lot of effort. But even when they update to the newest version of alpha, all your progress gets wiped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's generally a good thing, because with early access games, they wipe things or they change key fundamental parts of the game so often that your old save file, stuff that you did in your old save file, you might not be able to do
anymore. Yeah.
So like
they also want you to rehash the beginning. They want to see if you can find any niches
they want
that
you to
weren't
go
there
back
before.
over
It's not even that, to be honest. I mean, while there may be that desire, from a programmer's perspective, for me, it's much faster for me if you just have to start fresh again, rather than wasting time trying to put together a migration package to try and take your old save file to the new one.
Yeah.
You know, especially if I've sort of stated that we are in heavy flux. Changes are happening all the time. Expect things to happen, right? By the time we're done, we got this all cleaned up and we're stable. Then that's when I start considering, migration plans, because at that point, there's probably going to be about a month or two in between updates, right? So there's enough time for us to take our time to do that sort of stuff. When you're in the frying pan, cooking really fast and hot, the thing is that you just got no time to try and deal with that.
Exactly.
Absolutely not. Well, that's the thing when you buy into early access or alpha and beta, and like you actually pay money for it, you understand what you're getting into, because the developers will usually say, this is our parameter, this is what we're going to do, and if you like what we're going to do, then by all means come on board, be part of our team kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because like the alpha and beta testers are just an extension of the testers that are already on the dev team, right? So usually when you put enough time into a project, that you're invested in it and you want to see it progress, you want to see it get better. So those rolling restarts pretty much aren't as bad, because then you get used to the game, you get to find out new things about, let's say, the starting area that you didn't see before. So I think it's good on both parties, on the developer side and on the player side. It might be annoying at first, but I think it's better.
It also means that those who are in the beta tests don't have some sort of unfair lead on those who are just starting out in the game on release as well.
The alpha and beta testers are going to have a lead, because they're going to know where things are. They're going to have a knowledge of the game that new players won't have. And I think that's more
again, this goes back
valuable
to the whole restrictions versus dealing with consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
What
totally
do you
right
want?
on that.
What do you want you to let your players do whilst not overstretching their authority to break the game? Kind of deal, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also depends if they're playtesting a single player versus multiplayer experience too.
Yeah, because that's completely different.
Like you look at MOBAs, right? Like I was in the League of Legends beta.
I was in the Heroes beta.
Yeah, like the League of Legends beta, I remember like nobody knowing exactly what to do. And people were like, let's just do this. It kind of works. This seems fun. And then they'd release a new character. And we were like, oh, this person does this. And then it was just like, okay. And then it just started like some guy went like, hey, what if we teamed this person with this person? Look how broken this is.
Yeah.
Combos
and then the devs had to go like, oh, wait, like that's overpowered as fuck.
That's not supposed to work like that.
Yeah, like we didn't mean for
unforeseen consequences.
That. Yeah, that kind of thing. So like it's just it's betas. Betas are a necessity, but they can have some damning consequences.
Yeah.
If even the beta is bad.
But that also goes to like the people who are testing, right? Because you want the beta and alpha testers to be responsible enough to help you look for the bugs, to look for the problems and try to correct them, rather than someone just trying to get in on the game to get like a sneak peek. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I went into like beta testing knowing that there was going to be problems, and like I want this game to be good. Thus, I am going to give my critique at every single point I can.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm in the minority.
No. I'm right there with you on that. That's
Take
what
our
I was
silence as
going-
agreement.
Yes.
No,
that's what
Not good for a podcast, though.
So, yeah.
Harumph.
As I said earlier before we started recording this, I've been up for 24 hours, so I'm a little unresponsive.
That's fair. That was like me the other day.
Yeah, but yeah, it was that was my thought going into Star Trek Online. The open beta there was knowing that there was going to be issues, and that part of my responsibility in being there was to make sure those issues got fixed or got spotted.
But like one of my friends, he gets paid to alpha test and to like do coding stuff for games, and he'll spend like 5 hours just with developers, like just running through scenarios. But he's like a different type of tester where they're going to be like, we want you to test this, and they'll give him a specific scenario to try to break the game. They'll be like, we want you to do this and see what happens. And then we'll be like, okay, we're going to do this like 10 times and see what happens every time.
Like jump on this spot on this roof on this building 100 times in a row and see if it does the same thing over and over again.
Or trying to jump through this window or run through this lake, and you never know what they're going to do. But like for him, they have specific scenarios that they want him to go through specifically, which open or closed testers don't necessarily get. They usually get free roam of the place and are just expected to send in their reports willy-nilly. But he's a different type of tester where he is specifically like in a conversation or in a chat room kind of deal with the developers and basically giving these scenarios.
Well, as a, I don't know if we're getting close to the closing notes here, but
yeah,
we are. Say I will always be beta testing. Beta testing to me is something completely different from video games, because my little beta is a little kitty that's sitting on top of my desk right now.
Aww.
Hi, Beta.
Hi, Beta.
He's taking a nap
away,
right now.
kitty! We're recording shit!
Okay, I think that's a good place to wrap up. That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to follow us on all social media at TOONDISE on Facebook and with the hashtag ToonLounge on Twitter. And if you're a fan of TOONDISE, make sure to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/ToonDice. And on behalf of Axel, Sean, Sarah, and myself, Christina Carswell, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the lounge.